There's a story found in John chapter 5 that has always intrigued me. It's a story of Jesus coming to Jerusalem. And he has been in Samaria, but now made his way to the city of Jerusalem. And he comes to an area that was called the Pool of Bethesda, and it had 5 colonnades around it. It's been said that this pool has been found in recent times, that they have discovered that place, and as they uncovered it and dug into that area, they found that it was a massive pool that was some 20 feet deep and 100 yards, a football field size pool. So this was some kind of pool, and with the 5 colonnades around it, it was common for people who were sick, who were hurting, who were injured, who had great problems, to gather around that pool. There was a superstition that went around that it was the angels that came occasionally and stirred the waters. And if you got into the water first, you'd be healed. Now, that was in our King James translation of the Bible, but was not ever a part of the original text. It just says that Jesus came there and he found all of these people lying there. I want you to look at some verses with me. And there was a man there who had been an invalid for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and learned that he had been in that condition for a long time, he asked him, "Do you want to get well?" What a question. Can you imagine going to a doctor's office, or the waiting room in a doctor's office, or maybe in a hospital waiting room, and going up to different people that are obviously waiting to see the doctor or waiting for some kind of treatment, and going down the line and saying, "Do you want to get well?" How do you think people would respond? Well, of course I want to get well. Why would I be here if I didn't want to get well? This man responds. Listen to him. Sir, I have no one to help me. When the water is stirred and I'm trying to get in, someone else always gets there ahead of me. And so I feel for this man. I've no one to help me, which seems to indicate either there was no family there to actually help, or perhaps they had abandoned him as well. They may have become frustrated with the situation, or may have just felt hopeless. What in the world can we do? Nothing is going to change things. And so here he lays day after day after day, along with perhaps hundreds of others that are in similar conditions, all of them waiting for that miracle to happen, for an angel to come and stir the waters, which probably more literally came from the springs below that occasionally would spring up and the water would be stirred. And so Jesus looked at him. Do you want to get well? It intrigues me that the man didn't answer, well, yes, I want to get well. Can you help me? Instead, he begins to explain, well, certainly I want to, but I just don't have any help. Maybe he was hoping. Or maybe he was thinking that Jesus might be able to give him some money. I don't know. But his response is intriguing. When Jesus then looks at him and says, get up. Pick up your mat and walk. And at once he was cured. Don't you wonder how old the man was? If he had been invalid for 38 years, was this a lifetime thing? Was he like 40 years old or 39 and had been this way his whole life? We don't know. What I do know is that the average lifespan of that time was 29. Now, a lot of that was due to so many people dying in infancy, because the death rate at birth was extremely high. And besides that, many died in childhood. And so it didn't necessarily mean that most of the people alive didn't live beyond that 29. But even of that, it was to find someone that was in their 50s was to see one as an old man. And yet Jesus looks at the man in this situation and says, get up, pick up your mat, go home. And immediately he feels the strength in his legs and he's able to get up. And can you imagine him? I don't know if he wobbled around for a little bit trying to get his balance, or if he was immediately well and jumped up and began to dance around. I don't know. What I do know is that he was cured from that moment. And he picked up his mat and walked. Then the day on which this took place was a Sabbath day, and so he immediately attracted attention because it was against their law for one to be walking around carrying that mat. That would have been considered work on the Sabbath day. And so he immediately runs into trouble. It's the Sabbath. The law forbids you to carry that. And so these Jewish leaders come to him and begin to question him. He says, the man who made me well told me to pick up my mat and walk. Well, who is this man that told you to do that? It's interesting. These religious leaders were more concerned with the fact that he was breaking the Sabbath law than they were that he had been made well. They were only concerned he's carrying that mat around on the Sabbath day and forgot all about the fact he had been lying there for 38 years waiting to be healed. Who's the man? Well, the man didn't know. He said, well, I don't know. He's not here anymore. Jesus found the man later and in the temple courts and said to him, see, you are well again. Stop sinning, or something worse is going to happen to you. Now the man went immediately and told the Jewish leaders it was Jesus who had made him well. Now, I don't know if he just was not realizing what these religious leaders are going to try to do to persecute Jesus, or if he had no idea about any of that. He was just saying, well, there's the man that healed me, and I was doing what he said. I'll tell you what it does say. It shouts the message, Jesus cares. But he's more concerned about our changing our lives than he is just about the healing. Stop sinning. Make your whole life right and better and true with God. It's not enough just to have the body healed. You need the soul healed as well. And so the question is there, do you want to get well? Do you want to get well from the inside out, or just the body to get well? Great question for everybody to ask, not just of others, but of themselves. Listen, the greater illness is always the one inside, the spiritual illness. And our Lord longs to heal that one all the time. But I have to be willing to turn to the healer in obedience to his will if I'm going to have that healing inside and out.